I am now identifying myself officially as a woman.
But it doesn't work like that. You realize that, right? You have
I
to go
found that out. So why does it sometimes work like that and sometimes it don't? Is this out of convenience?
No. People who
only because insurance companies are donating a lot of money to the LGBT?
People who want to transition have to go to doctors. They have to go to psychologists and psychiatrists.
But I'm identifying
for many years. They don't wake up in the morning and do that. It has to be documented in medical documentation. They go through a whole process.
Gotham Investigations, as we investigate transgender in sports and other issues that are affecting the LGBTQ community and creating outrage to other individuals outside of the community. Today we have Jeremy Nicholson, who is an expert and healthcare professional in providing life insurance policies.
You ever think you'd be in this tortilla situation?
Yeah, you have to be careful what you wish for sometimes. But here I am, guys. Gotham Investigations, and we have Paul Thomas. Paul is also a healthcare professional, and he also teaches in universities sports-related issues involving all types of genders. And he sits on several organizations and board of directors for the LGBT community. Welcome, guys. And I want to start out with Paul.
Thank you.
Paul, what is your views and feelings of women and men, transgenders, participating in women's sports?
Right. So there's two issues, right? There's the issue of should they be allowed to play? And then there's the issue of, are people being angry over something that's not real, right? And so there's always two different conversations happening when we talk about transgender people participating in sports. And I think that, for the first time in our society, in our modern society, we have transgender people who are being openly accepted into society. So most people don't know how to react or respond. It's kind of like when a lot of gay people came out. Society was used to gay people having to be in the closet and be hidden. And when they started coming out, they didn't know how to respond, right? And so we're going through that type of a learning curve with transgender individuals. And sports happens to be the most visible arena of where the confusion comes in. Because I work in healthcare, I just like to stick to the science, right? And
So
most
what is
people
the science, Paul?
So the science is that humanity is very expansive. You were talking earlier, Jeremy, about the X and the Y and what we're learning in healthcare is that that's not really how humanity works. Humanity is not an X or a Y. Humanity's an X and a Y and an XX and a Y and an X and a YY and it's lots of different things, right? And so these genetic parts of the human body can be very different than what someone looks like on the outside, right? So it's not something that's not normal, it's something that's very, very normal. And you can be born with two X's and a Y, and it doesn't match up with what you look like on the outside, but that's just genetically how you're born. When we talk about intersex individuals, which is also a big topic in the Olympics, where they're telling women that they have too much testosterone in their systems naturally. It's just how they're born, right? And then when you look at fairness and anger and these types of things, well, guess what? I'd like to be 6'9" and be able to dunk, but that's not how I was born, right? So I just got to deal with what I got to deal with. The fairness issues and the outrage become really, really strange. When I was young, because the world was cool back in the 70s, there were girls who were I was a tennis player. They were really, really good. They had private coaches. They were really, really good. And the other girls were not competition for them. They played on the boys' team because they could hit as hard as the boys.
Paul,
nobody had any outrage.
Paul, you
just did because they were better.
Testosterone, and I think the Olympics has it now that they have to test below 10% for 3 weeks prior to a competition, below 10%, because an average male has 20 to 30% testosterone in the competitive sports age. Are you for or against this, that they have to be under 10%?
I think that whatever medical scientists decide is appropriate, that we can go with that, right? And I think as they learn more, they'll adjust that. For right now, that's what they've decided, right? Because they know that when someone transitions, the different changes that their body goes through, the levels of testosterone, the levels of estrogen. And so they've kind of hit this number and went, okay, at this number, we're just going to go with this number. That may change.
So British cycling, they banned transgenders, where you cannot compete in women's events. And in the U.S., I believe that's one of the requirements now, that you have to be under 10% 3 weeks prior. But why don't we have this problem in men's sports? You don't see a transgender female converting over to a male trying out for the NFL because she'll get her head blocked off. You don't see a female
that's not necessarily true.
That's a boxer because her bones and body cannot take that.
Well, that isn't true. There are a lot of transgender people that play in sports. You just don't know that they're transgender.
I don't see any in the NFL. Or in the combines
I don't know.
trying out.
You probably don't, and that's why I said it's very new, right? This idea. I have
But only
transgender
because
friends
their bones
who
can't take it.
who have transitioned female to male, who are now in the military as men, right? They don't have to tell people that they're transgender, and so people won't know. But they present as male, and as far as anyone knows, that they're male, right? When this idea of now. Bicycling as an example, right? What I would like to see for now, while we're figuring this all out in society and in medicine about what would be the best way to move forward, I would love to see an open event, right? And in tennis, there's open events where anyone can compete. And this way, when you're in the open event, if you choose to sign up for that, it doesn't matter who's in the event, right?
Exactly.
I would like to see a lot more of that. And then if we want to stick with some type of binary, then that could be an option as well. But I think that everyone has to be included. And I think the best way to allow transgender athletes to participate fully in society is to have open events. Where the gender doesn't matter. And then everyone gets to play. I mean, when you run marathons, everybody runs the same 26 miles, right?
But in this open event, you're talking about also having a women's event, a man's event, and an open event that anybody can go in, and I want to hold the title in the women's, but now I can compete in the event that has both genders, or whoever wants to compete.
Whoever wants to compete. That's just my personal opinion right now for a quick fix to allow people, because the whole thing is we can't not allow people to participate. And the very real reason behind that is because there are serious consequences to telling people you're not allowed here, right? And to the point of death and suicide, and
that they're not allowed. We're just saying that you were born a male, you belong in the male's competition.
But that's not. But why is that true? Not every man has the same testosterone level. There are lots of men that don't have any, but they can compete. If you're going to talk about testosterone, are you going to check the testosterone of all the men? Because they don't all have high levels, right? And so when you start going, but your level, well, guess what? She has the same amount as he does. So if you're going to use that as the marker, then you're gonna. But that's not actually true. There are a lot of women that are a lot bigger than men. Some men are very small and petite, and they're not strong. Does that mean that they can't ride in the bicycle race? We don't go, sorry, you're just not a big enough of a man to participate, right? We don't do that.
What's your thoughts on this?
So I'm a thinker, and I've taken some time to really think about this. My initial instinct when first asked about this, I felt that, really men needed to be in their separate sport and women needed to be in their separate sport. Having the opportunity to think about it, I now kind of believe that there needs to be some inclusion. Now, I also think that there needs to be some separation with sports because, just as you said, I do believe that, there's enough scientific data that says that some individuals could not play the same with a male, like a female playing with a male in pro NFL football. We've seen accidents happen this past year with NFL players that almost lost their life. And, I look at that as an opportunity of what would have happened if that was a female. And again, no discrimination towards any male or female out there, because everybody's built differently, right? So when I think about it overall, if somebody wants to put their life in jeopardy, and that's essentially what's happening, whether it's male or female, it's their choice to do so at that point. I do believe in the inclusion of it, but I also understand it's new, right? And a lot of times we create, in our society, we create issues that don't really need to be there. We like to dwell on issues that really don't need to be there. Everybody could just live life and be happy and let everything move forward. On the backside, though, is the repercussions. People are always worried about what if they do go out there, they get hurt, they get sued. So I think that's where the question comes in is where does the liability go at that point? There's been male and females that have both gone out there and they've had to sign waiver forms and they go out and perform. Even in small towns, I've seen where sports that used to be just for males, never allowed for a female, is now played for females. Now female sports that were just for females are now being played by males, and now we're seeing teams come together and they're playing it together. So, and I've seen no harm, no foul with that. And that's in small towns, suburbs, not major cities, but that's happening out there. And I think we just, we allow science to evolve, but it does make it a difficult situation.
Right. So now some of these sports bodies have decided that if you have transitioned after puberty, they're going to treat those people differently than people that get to transition before puberty, right? Because then
But
they don't
how can that
develop.
be proven, Paul? Just
they don't
I come
de-
out and I say that?
I'm sorry?
How can that be proven?
What do you mean?
You're taking somebody's word for that? Or you're
That they've transitioned before puberty?
Yeah.
No, well, people would know. There would be medical documentation.
Oh, you mean the full transition?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, so like that's something that they're trying to do to say, all right now for the short term, how about we do this to try to find some type of equality, which works great, except we live in Florida, where the state of Florida has decided to not listen to the medical community at all and say, you cannot treat young people prior to puberty who want to transition. And so it becomes a serious issue, right? Because politicians are making decisions that are not fact-based and not science-based for political points. They're trying to get people angry, but they don't realize that's somebody's life. And the things that you're saying are not true.
So you think
Right.
a lot of this stuff that's coming out is just trying to create anger
Yeah,
amongst
it's political and it has nothing to
and
do
amongst
with
the
science.
allied males and females of the community.
Absolutely.
They're
I
just trying
mean,
to bump heads.
If you want to look at a sport like boxing, then we need, because I think every sport needs to be looked at differently. But there are lots of sports that it's not going to make a difference,
Agreed.
right? It's
Well,
just not
boxing's
going
going to
to.
make a difference.
Right,
Football's
boxing-
going to make a difference.
Right, and so
But in
we
women's
would,
sports, it
we
makes a
would,
big difference.
depending on the sport, right?
You don't see the woman beating the men's. Where has there ever been a woman that
Billie
transgendered
Jean,
into a man?
you don't have to transgender. Billie Jean King beat what's his name? Way back in the 70s at tennis, she won for women's equity. She beat a man. It had nothing to do with transgender.
Well, we're talking about
And
one
so,
event, and we don't even know if that's fixed.
It's not fixed. And the thing is this, I don't know what sports you play, but I'm sure there are lots of women on this planet that could easily beat you, no matter what the sport is, right?
Well, Paul,
Easily
I don't know about
beat you.
that. I'd like to take it out there. I've been known to shoot pool and play a little pocket pool myself. But other than that, so what's your opinion, guys, on identity? I mean, do you think it's okay for a man to identify himself as a woman, which is going to get to a conversation I had with Jeremy yesterday? Do you think it's okay for a woman to identify himself as a man? How do you feel about that, Jeremy?
Again, I think that we create issues that don't necessarily need to pertain to us. I mean, if we would just stay in our bounds and keep our blinders
So are
on
you
and
for or against
live.
it?
I struggle with it. Personally, I struggle with
Okay.
it. I do. If I see, I've never truly understood it. I believe we're brought into the world as a sex. I've never understood the transition. I've never understood calling myself something other than I am.
Okay.
So that is, but am I against somebody else out there doing it? I would say no, because it doesn't affect me personally, and I don't allow the outside environment.
But would you
to affect
accept
me
that?
Would I accept
A man saying, "I'm a woman."
It's happening all around us. I mean, you
So
go
you would
down
accept
here in
that?
Wynwood and you see them walking around. I just say, what harm is he doing to me
Paul,
today?
would you accept that?
You have to.
But with authority, would you accept it with authority?
Of course, because the thing is, like I was saying earlier, we've learned as we study the human body, and we study genetics, and we have to think about what makes someone male and what makes someone female, right? And what we find the more that we study the human body is that not much does. And it's pretty jumbled in there.
So you're for that? You're okay with
Well,
somebody?
you have to be, because it's real. It just
That's
is the way
society
that it
today.
is. Now, because you were brought up in a time where people told you this is male and this is female, and they brought you up in a binary world, that didn't make it right. That's just what they knew at the time.
All right, so Paul-
They didn't know at the time that humanity doesn't actually exist.
I just want to clarify your mindset here. So
Yeah.
I wake up tomorrow, and I feel it all happy and go lucky, and I'm going to identify myself as a hummingbird. Is that okay with you? Or I feel fat.
What do I care?
I feel fat. I'm going to identify myself as a manatee, and a policeman can't stop me now because I'm a protective and endangered species. Are you okay with that?
Well, that would
I don't see no different here.
Well, that's a lot different. That's not.
How
the
do
same
you see that
thing.
different? I'm a
That's not the-
hummingbird.
That's not the same thing, and that's not what people are doing, right? That's
But
not.
I'm saying if I want to do that,
people are
why
not going.
can't I do that?
People are not going to the absurd and saying I'm a bird, right? That's not the same species.
I'm doing that.
That's not the. If you want to do that,
It's a mammal,
they'll
and so
probably
is a
bring you
manatee.
to a psychiatric institution.
Absolutely.
If you start thinking you're a manatee or a bird, they'll probably lock you
But
up.
if I start saying a woman, a lot of people that know me might lock me up.
No, that would be up to you.
My
to
wife would lock
decide.
me up.
Not necessarily. I actually know couples that the man has decided to transition and the wife has stayed with them. They've been married for a very long time. They're not having an issue with it. And like Jeremy said, guess what? They're still happy. Knock
But
themselves.
if I wasn't born a male, if I
You don't
wasn't
know
born a
what you
male
were born.
or a female,
You don't know that.
well, I
right?
don't know if I wasn't born a hummingbird or a manatee.
This goes back to me saying we have to stick to the science and we have to stick to what makes someone male and what makes someone female. You don't actually know your genetics. You don't know. You may have two X chromosomes. You may have two Y chromosomes, and you just don't know it. You may be genetically more one or the other.
Next
and
question.
you just don't know it.
Okay.
Well, you
so
started
this,
it, Jeff. You want to be in the middle. Don't get nervous now.
This brings me to a perfect conversation I had with Jeremy yesterday. I was looking to increase my life insurance policies for my family. So when I talked to Jeremy about it, I have a couple policies in place, but I wanted to get another one. And he says, well, because of your age, it's a little bit more. Your wife would actually be less money because she's a woman, even though she's older than you. So I'm like, Jeremy, I am now identifying myself officially as a woman.
But it doesn't work like that. You realize that, right? You have
I
to go
found that out.
You
So
have-
why does it sometimes work like that and sometimes it
Well,
don't?
you-
Is this out of convenience?
No, people who
Only because
people
insurance
who wanna
companies are donating a
transition-
lot of money to the
No,
LGBT?
people who want to transition have to go to doctors. They have to go to psychologists and psychiatrists.
I'm identifying
for many years.
myself.
They don't wake up in the morning and do that. It has to be documented in medical
just said you accepted
documentation.
somebody
They
that
go
says
through a
that.
whole process. It's not going, oh, I want cheaper insurance, so I'll just pretend to be a woman. It's not like that at all. It's a very long and arduous process.
Paul, in healthcare, they do have that other spot there, male, female, other. They don't have it on life insurance policies, but if you put other, you're considered high risk. Now, is somebody that goes through that, are they going to be honest, or are they going to try to put what their original?
I don't know. I mean,
birth certificate says?
the insurance industry will have to start to figure this out as we move forward, right?
So I want
And
it
as
now.
more and
I'm
more
getting my
people-
policy now. I'm a woman,
I think you
and
should
I
just
called
pay
Jeremy.
the money and stop being so cheap, Jeff.
So that brought Jeremy to a 14-hour investigation into, can I put myself down as a woman on my life insurance policy?
cannot.
And he found out some interesting things.
Yeah, so Jeff, it was a great task. You always put me on great tasks after I visit or I get a phone call from you. I never know exactly what's going to come out. So it was great. But I did research. My immediate answer was that we would classify based on what the gender was if they've gone through the transformation.
And that was through the Office of Vital Statistics. So your birth certificate that you could never change, even if you have an operation, your original birth certificate has your gender when you're born.
Correct. So if you were
Birth
born,
certificates can be changed.
so if you were born and your birth certificate was that you were born a male, then you would be classified as a male. I work with the top 40 companies in the nation. They're all A-rated companies, and I reached out to them and I started asking this question as well. It is a topic of conversation. It's very prevalent. It's on the news. It's everywhere we go, and it's a question that I had as well to make sure that I certify what is being asked. I do support and work with the LGBTQ plus community. I'm able to assist and write policies with any of them, and I consider them just as anybody else. When I sit down, they're a client, and I'm there to serve the
So
client.
what was your outcome of your investigation?
Yep. So of the different carriers that we work with, there are a couple carriers that if you've gone through the full transgender process, there would be a full medical documentation, just as Paul said, throughout the entire process. They can identify themselves as they are today and not as their vital statistic would say on their birth certificate. And the insurance company would be able to insure them today, but there would be documentation. The one thing I will tell you is there is no carrier, nor myself, would discriminate against somebody, nor would we increase premiums or decrease premiums because they've gone through a change. That is one thing that we stand by and we will not do. There are specific companies, though, that state they go by whatever the birth certificate states at birth, that's what they go by. But having the ability as a broker to be able to move around and find the best coverage for my clients, it allows me to find if somebody is transgender, and they've gone through the process, I can find them coverage today based on their actual sex
So
that they are
someone
today.
that's not transgender and they're just identifying themselves as the opposite sex, that's out the window.
Correct.
right?
So binary, they do not recognize today. Now, I will tell you, in the number of hours of investigations I've done and research, it has brought a topic to many of the underwriters. I've reached out to underwriters. I have chief underwriters that I've spoken to that have actually brought it up. And today, all applications state male or female with the companies that I work with. Could there be down the road, because this is so prevalent and we are in a society that is changing and evolving and we adapt to change, could there be an X or an other? There very well could be, and that is something that they are looking into.
Or
Paul,
gender,
where's
or
the
gender,
outrage?
or gender neutral pronouns.
Or gender neutral, correct.
Like they, them, and then it doesn't
But
matter.
where's
if
the
they're male or
outrage,
female.
Paul? They're pumping a lot of money into the LGBT, these insurance companies. Where's the outrage that there's not an outreach group, they're not going to the media? Why isn't this happening now with insurance companies? Why we're just waiting for them to bring it up?
I think that there are a lot of, just from what I see, right? There are a lot of immediate concerns. I think, unfortunately, especially for our trans community, they're still trying to just be able to work. They haven't even gotten a chance to take a breath to think about life insurance down the line.
But
they're trying
why
to
are
get,
they so
they're
adamant?
trying to get through today. But I think that as they
But they're doing this in
become
sports.
more-
If every woman would say, no, I'm out, of course they weren't going to do that because they got scholarships. This is how universities get
Well-
their money, through scholarships and everything else. So why is there an outrage in having these men compete in women's sports? Where's the outrage with insurance companies?
There probably will be one day, right? One day there probably will be if somebody goes to apply. But like Jeremy said, I'm happy to hear there are companies that will still offer you life insurance. They say we're not going to discriminate. One company may not, because that's the way their language is written now. Wouldn't take more than a court case to go like, that's not acceptable. Like, you can't stay in business and you can't be certified as an insurance carrier with that language like that. You have to make more inclusive language. That's happening everywhere. That's happening in charters and in governments where you cannot say he and she. Everything has to be they, them. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in the insurance
So do
industry
you,
soon.
in this identity crisis that we're having,
We're not having a crisis.
well, you think if I was a teenager, I would have loved to say I was a girl and be in the girls' locker room. I mean, what's to say? How do you feel about these restrooms that they're trying to get everybody to go in the same
Gender
restroom?
neutral restrooms?
A restroom that everybody can go into. Yeah.
Well, doesn't everybody go in the restroom at your house?
Well, I'm talking about in public, in a school. Do you think there should be a male restroom, a female restroom,
I think there should be gender neutral restrooms.
but a third restroom?
Yeah, gender neutral restroom, a restroom.
One restroom for everybody.
And there's actually
Listen,
establishments that have that.
You're my age, Jay. You remember Ally McBeal? That was the 90s. We had that at work. They did it on TV, and Ally McBeal, they had everybody use the same restroom. So we did it at work. Of course, after about 6 months, all the guys were like, we want our own restroom back. Like, we don't want to be in the restroom with the girls anymore.
Paul,
But
I sat on the
that's
board
not
with
new.
you. You know, I sat on the board
If you
with
go to clubs and bars in New York City, everybody's in the same restroom. That's been happening for 30 years already. That's not even new.
Right, I sat on the board with Pride doing the security for a few years. You sat on the board as well. Even at Pride, they have a men's room and a girls' room. Why don't it start there?
I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're saying. I don't want to talk about Pride, but I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what that
No, I'm
means.
saying they have a men's and a women's room. They don't have.
That building, that's not the Pride's building. They just rent
No,
an
I'm saying
office
like
space.
even in the VIP tent, there's a men's and a women's room. There's not like one that everybody. can
Gender
go into.
neutral, maybe they haven't gotten there yet. I mean, maybe they should, right?
But that's where it should start, at the Pride events. If they don't even do it at their events,
I don't think people care.
why
at
are they
Pride.
pushing it?
Don't
in
we
schools?
use porta potties? I think everybody uses porta potties, right?
Well, the non.
I don't think they have male.
the non-VIP things, but I'm saying, why doesn't it start there? Don't you think they could have like a third restroom with even?
I think most buildings have already done it. There's already gender neutral bathrooms everywhere.
But yeah, I'm saying have a men's, have a woman's.
It
but then-
wouldn't start there. It's already started. It's already happened. I
But
think most government
I'm talking
buildings.
about a third restroom. Now you could even put the Pride flag. You
What
want
do
to
you
go
have to
into
do
a
all
mixed
that for?
bathroom? You can go to the
I
mixed
think
bathroom.
don't do a flag. Just have a bathroom. Let it not be an issue, like Jeremy said. Don't cause a problem where there isn't one. When you have to go to the bathroom, just go to the bathroom.
But Paul,
Remember to
there's-
wash your hands before you leave.
The problem exists. The problem exists not with the LGBT community. The problem exists of the perverts that are now going in the bathroom. That a little girl goes in a restaurant and goes in there.
But that's
And
not
now-
true.
It's
You have
true
to
because-
find data that shows that
Paul, all you have
perverts
to
are
do-
trying to take advantage of a gender neutral bathroom because what you're saying is not statistically true. We've looked into that. That doesn't happen.
Paul, all you have to do is go to the FDLE website, put sexual predators, put an address, and there'll be like 100 of them within a little area.
Right.
You don't think these children masturbators are going to love to go in a bathroom with an opposite sex and see a little girl in there? And maybe
I don't know what they
stand up
do.
at the
I don't know.
urinal and expose himself to
But
it.
is that what happens in gender neutral bathrooms? That's not what happens.
That's what
not
people are
happens.
dying for. Pervert. I'm
No,
not talking about,
that's not what happened. Gender neutral bathroom doesn't mean that men are standing at a urinal next to a woman sitting on a toilet and there's no that's not what's happening. That's
But
not
what's
what's
happening?
happening.
Do I
It's
gotta
just
now
a
sit down
bathroom.
and take
Somebody goes into a bathroom and that's it.
So there's
They
no
close the door.
urinals for men
They
no
close
more?
the door and they go into the bathroom.
No, I'm talking about a bathroom that you can fit 10 people in.
Yeah.
You're going to have a little girl 10 years old next to a man that's
No, I don't.
70
I've
years old.
never
You're gonna
seen
leave.
that. I've never heard that that's anything that anybody wants ever.
But that's what I'm talking about. The extreme.
But I don't know about that. I've never heard anybody
So,
want that.
then
There is
you're-
no extreme. They just said it should be a gender neutral bathroom.
But if we're talking about a gender neutral bathroom that you could fit 10 people in,
Mm-hmm.
are you for that where you could have a little girl 5 years old next to a 70-year-old man taking
I
a
don't
swim?
know. I've been in men's bathrooms where men have come in with their daughters. They're like, sorry, like my daughter has to go to the bathroom. Because the dad is out with his two daughters and she's got to go to the bathroom. He can't walk into a women's bathroom, so he walks into the men's bathroom with his two daughters. He goes inside the thing,
But she's
and he does what
supervised.
he's got to do.
And that's not a
Like,
gender neutral bathroom. That's just a
yeah,
regular bathroom.
But it's just to have to go to the bathroom.
But she's supervised. Jeremy, what do you feel
What
about
do you
that?
mean?
That because if I'm with my daughter, it's different than
Yeah.
her going in there by herself and somebody grabbing her and pulling her into the
Of course, you don't want that, but I mean that could happen if you send a little girl into the women's room. Somebody could grab the little girl. A woman could grab the little girl, right? Do you send your kids into? I don't think parents do that. I think they go in with them, right?
Well,
Because somebody could kidnap your kid.
No, but
It
we're-
doesn't matter the gender.
but we're talking about elementary schools where they don't have a choice. You know,
What do you
not-
mean?
In elementary school, you don't go to the bathroom with your parents, but you might have a teacher that's a male and goes in the bathroom now with a little 6-year-old girl.
I don't think that happens, does it?
But I'm saying if schools go with the transgender bathrooms and they don't have a choice, this could happen. That's what I'm referring to.
Those are not the same things.
But
A grown man going into a little girl's bathroom has nothing to do with having gender neutral bathrooms.
But they would be
These are
able
not the
to.
same things.
If it was in an elementary
No,
school.
they would not be able to. Why would they?
So if you had one bathroom in an elementary school
Mm-hmm.
for men and women, and you could have 10 people in there. A little girl wants to go to the bathroom, the teacher gives her a pass.
A
but
gender
now-
neutral bathroom is just a like what you have over there. That's all it is.
Okay. So
Only
you're not
one
talking-
only one person can go in that bathroom.
Correct.
It doesn't matter your gender.
Well, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That's what they want.
It's not 10
That's what
toilets
they
in
want.
one
It's not
with
20
urinals.
different people in a bathroom.
Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is
Yeah,
there's a-
although if you go to New York City, you find 20 different people in the bathroom,
but I'm talking about there's even a couple sports
and nobody
bars
cares.
down south that have that. There's one bathroom and little boys, girls. So what you're saying is, yeah, that's fine. You have one bathroom. They have it in hospitals. It says restroom. So you're not
That's it.
talking. You're not saying, oh, okay, I'm for an elementary school having one bathroom with 10 people going inside. You just want a single bathroom.
A gender neutral bathroom, right? Where somebody who has to go to the bathroom, no matter their gender, they can just go in the bathroom. That's it.
Okay. So what's your view on all these drag queens now that are doing these demonstrations in elementary schools? I mean, why little kids? Why are they doing this in front of little kids?
What demonstrations are they doing? You
They're doing
drag
dances,
story
they're doing
hour?
drag story hour and stuff like
Isn't that
that.
beautiful?
But why are they going to elementary schools? Don't you think?
Why
that's a
should they
little-
not? What better time to teach a kid unconditional love than when they're young? That's where when we talk about racism, when we talk about all these problems in society that are made up, right? They don't need to be there. Those things are learned very, very young. You learn hatred very, very young. We know in education that a child learns by the age of 5 or 6.
But
They
dancing-
pretty much learned all that they need
But
to learn when it
dancing,
comes to that.
I've seen videos where they're dancing in like a G-string, dressed like.
You've
a drag
never
queen.
seen that in a school.
They've had it on TV.
You have
recently.
never seen that in a school. You've
They've
never
had it
seen
on
that
TV
in a school.
recently.
They have never seen that in a school. A school would not allow anybody in the school in a G-string. Nobody. Doesn't matter who you are. They're not going to allow that. So that did not happen.
They've been showing videos of that, of I guess the extreme ones that parents are
No.
against. So
No.
you feel like
they might
should
be
allow-
at a brunch or something. And when it comes to a brunch, listen. First of all, this puritanical attitude of like, if I go to brunch, these same people that are all upset bring their little kids in Hooters, and they're fine with that, right? I don't know why that's okay.
But why is that not okay?
Well, if they can't go to drag brunch, why can't they go to Hooters?
Well,
Well, the
because-
girls have almost no clothes on. Like, why can they do that? This is where, like, obvious discrimination, like Jeremy said, like these things that aren't real, and because they're not real and people just start making up stuff, they themselves become absurd. Somebody going to brunch with their child should be able to go to brunch with their child. It's not your business. If you don't want to
But it
bring
is
your
my-
child to brunch, don't bring your child to brunch.
But it is I'm not talking about
You
brunch.
shouldn't be able to make a law to tell me I can. I want my kids to be accepting from very young. I want them exposed to everything. I'm a New Yorker. You're already exposed to everything. Nobody has an issue. We don't have these discussions.
But
it's only in places
why-
where people are looking for a problem where there isn't a problem.
I know you're saying start them out young, but then
That's the
you know,
only way to do it.
What about the anti? There is anti-gay groups and stuff out there, obviously, because we live in a hatred society. Do you feel that they should have that opportunity as well
To
be in
teach
front
hatred?
of these elementary school kids?
To teach hatred? No, I don't think they should have an opportunity to teach hatred.
But if it's a free
public
world-
school, the whole point about public school is that public school is for you to learn to be a good citizen in society. Has nothing to do with your mom and dad know or don't know. What your mom and dad know or don't know happens in the home. When you're out in public, in a public school, the whole point of being there is that you learn to be a good citizen in society. So those things your mom and dad like or don't like don't matter. You have to be,
But
you're
it
a
does
cop,
matter.
right? You're a cop, right? You have to learn then in that mixed group with all different kind of races and religions and nationalities and genders, that there's things you can do and the things you cannot do.
But Paul, how do you feel about
if
these
you break
parents?
the law, then you're going to go and arrest them.
How do you feel
right?
about these parents that put half the closet of boys' clothes, girls' clothes, and they say, you pick what you want to be, hun, or boy.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Why not?
Why,
I don't think.
why would they have
I'm going
to
to jump
pick
in for just a second. I don't think it works that way.
It does
I
work
think at
that
a
way,
very
'cause we've
young
handled
age,
cases.
a person knows
I can't say that.
Of course
who
they
they
do.
are and what they're wanting to do, and it's
course
just
they do.
we live in a society.
In our
that's-
book, Jeremy, the mitigation of Mark Sievers, that's one of the things that him and his wife did, is they allowed the girls to choose what they wanted to dress as that week. And one week they would dress as a girl, another week a boy.
So what?
And
they
there's
had
times
no-
where
So
people
one
go
day
out
they
on
wear
Halloween
blue,
and they
one
dress
day
up
they
too.
wear blue, one day they wear pink. Who cares?
Well, it's not about colors, Paul. It's about wearing dresses
But who said that's
as a
wrong?
boy
So what?
or a girl as
But
a
who
suit.
said that's wrong? You were programmed to believe that one is right and one is wrong. If you didn't have that programming, if nobody ever made it an issue,
Then-
you would never even think about it, and people would
why-
just pick out whatever they felt like wearing.
Then why are they putting a gender on birth certificates? Just to
I think nowadays they're stopping. I think nowadays,
Well, we can't think, Paul. I've never heard of anyone stopping putting a gender on a birth
yeah,
certificate.
yeah. I think they're having birth certificates nowadays that don't have that.
What state is doing this? Because I've never
All
heard of
sta-
that
a bunch of
before.
states in America, yeah.
Have you ever heard of this, Jeremy?
I'm not
And
that,
that,
yet.
yeah. We'll
But
look
in
it
my
up.
in my
We'll look it
research, I
up.
will tell you there was one thing I was going to state earlier is that in the state of Oregon, it's the one state that most insurance companies, because the laws have passed already, they're allowed to keep moving forward and they can be whatever sex they wish to be at that point. So that transgender, they would be recognized as transgender. And I know I'm bringing back up the insurance thing, but I think it's prevalent. I don't believe that somebody is, just waking up today and saying I'm a female or a male.
No, that's
It's
not
something
what's
that they've been
happening.
going through for a long period of time,
Their
and they
whole
make
life.
a choice and they live with that choice.
And
Again,
the whole thing is to have a civil, safe society for everyone. We have to look at all these different things. And one thing that I learned about, which I would have never thought of, as we try to have a more accepting society, right, is airport screener. Those machines in the airports where you put your arms up. And those machines are made based on the binary. They push one button. If you present as a male, they push male before you step in. If you present as a female, they push female when you step in. So non-binary and trans people get pulled out of line all the time because the machine is looking for one thing because that's the button they pushed, and it's reading another. And so they're pulling them out of line going, you got to get strip searched. Because we pushed male, but the machine is reading something different. And so now they're having to change all the machines in the airports to make them non-binary, to make them not on the binary of male and female only. And that's so that people don't get discriminated against, because people who are in line in the airport are getting pulled out of line just based on gender and sex, right? And that would be the same as having a machine that just pulled black people out of line or just pulled Asian people out of line. It would be discriminatory.
So
right?
I haven't seen none of this on the news. You said this is actually happening now.
Yes, it's happening now.
Jeremy, do you think a biological male could have a baby?
scientifically and biologically, I don't personally see it.
Paul,
What?
do you think a biological male can have a baby?
Well, there's fathers everywhere. What do you mean?
No, I mean talking about squirting about.
Well, how could they do that if they don't have a uterus?
That's exactly my point.
That's just science. That's just what? What is the
So-
point?
so
But
they're not.
lots of women don't have a uterus.
So they're not. a
Lots of
woman.
women can't give birth.
So a man is
No,
not
lots
a
of
woman
women
without
can't
a
give
uterus.
birth. That's not true. When you transition, they can
Ha-
make you a uterus.
have
You're
you-
fine. You just don't have ovaries.
Have you ever seen a biological female get prostate cancer?
Do biological females have a prostate?
Exactly my point.
What's your point?
that they're a female.
See, this is why it's really important to leave all these discussions up to medical sciences. Because when lay people they just get very confused over things that aren't even real.
Well,
it's
Paul,
like,
I'm having a discussion that
so
people
that's
are
why
coming
when
out
politicians say ridiculous things like this, right?
Well, but it's
and then
not
they try to make a
ridiculous.
law around things that aren't even true. And it's like, what are you doing? This is not, stay in your lane.
Well,
You're just a
females-
politician.
women
Fix
that-
the pothole in the
women
road.
that can't
Don't
have
try to
babies.
talk about science.
But we're bringing this discussion out in the open. So women that some of them can't have babies, they're still able to implant, a sperm or some cells in there and have a baby.
No, they can.
Some of them can,
Maybe.
but a man will never be able to do that.
Okay. What is I don't understand your point.
That if you're born a male, you're a male. If you're born a female, you're a female.
That's
you
not
can have
true.
those genes in
That's
you.
not
but
true.
Your identity is okay in some things, but in reality, biologically, you cannot perform as a female or male. And aren't a lot of
I don't see. You're back to taking something into this very little world that leaves out everybody else. There's lots of women that can't have babies.
okay.
That doesn't make them not women.
So how many
Do you get my point?
how many transgenders that you know went full one way or another and then regret what they did?
I don't know any.
Okay. And they don't regret it at all because
I've never met
some
any.
that
I've
complain
never
that
met
they're
any.
leaking fluids.
I've never met any. But listen, I've met lots of people, right, working in psychology, who've regretted a lot of things in their life. So but I have never met any.
So
Right.
to clarify things, sports, you do believe there should be a third venue where anyone can compete in,
That's
But
just
to
my
keep-
idea for a quick fix. Have an open.
and to keep males and females biologically separate, but have this third thing. I think everybody is agreeable with that. I think that that's a fantastic thing, and we could live with that. And Jeremy, life insurance policies, you say are kind of identifying things now that they didn't identify in the past, and you foresee changes being made in the current environment, the current future.
Yeah, ever evolving. I believe in a society that's evolving. They're going to adapt and change. Insurance companies are out to insure, and they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they get the proper coverage that they need. And that's essentially what I do as well. That's why I took the time when you raised the question yesterday. I took the time to research. I want to provide for every client the best possible coverage possible. And I do think that insurance companies are going to take this. I mean, the conversations I've had, getting to chief underwriters and that, this is a topic that is not just raised for myself and for you in this conversation today. I think it is going to go back, and it's going to be topics of conversation throughout organizations and
But
companies
as far
well.
as my answer on my application, I have to put down a male.
You are
I
a
want
male,
to get
correct.
paid off. Not a hummingbird or a manatee.
Can
gotta
I
put
ask
down a-
Jeremy a question?
Yes, you, of course.
Talking about insurance, and you were talking about how it was cheaper for a woman than for a man. Like, a lot of those systems are very old belief systems when men left the home to go work and women didn't. There were just a less risk of a woman dying at a certain age and from certain things. And so they made the women's premiums low. But as we gain more equity and equality, where women are doing all the same jobs as men, they're driving trucks and they're in the military and they're
Construction, all of that.
that construction, that maybe they won't get cheaper rates. Maybe it won't be so easy for you, Jeff, to be a cheapskate.
Well, I always try to find a way, an unusual way out of things, and unfortunately I can't. So the reasoning behind drag queens in elementary schools, Paul, you said, is that you want to educate people to get rid of hatred at a young age, but you're not
Absolutely.
for dancing around in G-strings or anything like that in front of elementary kids.
Not in a school setting, not in an elementary school setting, but if me as a parent want to bring my children to our house because I'm comfortable with sex and sexuality and having a conversation with my young kids about sex and sexuality. I don't think some politician should be, because of his religion, should be able to tell me that I can't.
And as far as co-ed showers, you're not for that unless they have the full transgender operation. In sports locker rooms.
Right. Again, this will be evolving. My guess would be that the person who's transgender wouldn't even be comfortable, right? Unless they've already had surgery.
And then the answer to another question we had about the transgender restrooms.
You didn't bring up prisons and jails, though, but that's an issue there, too, right? Where do they get housed in prisons and jails? And that's a very...
Where do they, in housing in jails? Systems?
Where do they, right, if you're transgender, right? If you transition to female, do you go to a female jail? Or do they, and unfortunately, sometimes, and it's happened here in Miami where they've tried to house them with men, and the person's gotten beat up, right? So as we're learning, we just have to keep doing better. What we have to do, the most important thing is we have to stick to science,
a lot of
and we have
people
to stick to reality.
get
And we
beat
have
up
to stay
in
far
jail.
away from religion and made up stuff or something somebody's grandmother taught them when they were like, that has nothing to do with it. We have to really, really do the make the best decision for what's best for society as a whole.
And that's what the life insurance as well. I mean, it comes down to science, facts.
Right.
That's why we ask the questions and the policies that we do, and some of them are lengthy questions, and then they go and check the Medical Information Bureau. The reality is we're going to rely on the science, and as we evolve, I do see that changes are going to happen. And again, there's companies that are going to help today, those that have made the decision to go transgender, those that are thinking, I do want to add this, anybody that's thinking of going through the process and they have not would need to wait 1 year before they or until after they've had the procedure before they would actually insure at that point in time. But there's other policies and procedures that we can put in place, temporary insurance, things of that nature, to have them covered. So there's definitely ways of making sure that every single person has the coverage necessary for them to protect themselves, and their families, and their loved ones.
And
That's
the answer...
That's fantastic to hear.
The answer also, that's a misconception to a lot of our viewers when we talk about transgender restrooms. As Paul mentioned, we're not talking about a restroom which is 10 people capacity. We're talking about the fight is for a single restroom that anyone could go into, type of thing.
A gender-neutral restroom.
A gender-neutral restroom, not a big restroom where 10 people and you got everyone mixed and you have Uncle Harry with his little juicer out.
Even though that happens, right? Because in the example that I pointed out, oftentimes little kids are in different sex bathrooms because they're traveling with their parents, and that's just what they got to do.
But they're
a woman's
supervised.
going to bring her son in the ladies' room.
But we're talking about
That's just what
we're talking
she's
about
gonna do.
supervised urinal visits. You know, it's a whole different story than an elementary school young child going there and seeing a 70-year-old teacher there taking a squirt. When she's trying to go to the bathroom and sees him hanging out there, or he turns around to pull up his fly. So that is understandable. One bathroom anybody can go into, but not multiple people.
And Jeff, those are already available. I mean, many of the big box retail stores, restaurants.
I think all
there's
government buildings.
Yeah, there's already restrooms that has the male and female plaque hanging there. Anybody can go in.
Well,
take their
that's
business.
understandable. I don't think anyone is against that. Hospitals and stuff have that. But what the big fury out there is the multiple.
The big fury is
individuals
ignorance.
That go into a
That's the
restroom
big
and stuff
fury.
out there. So I hope we answered some of your questions there and didn't leave you more confused than ever. But other than that, I think we are on a direction that society has taken, that you're going to have to acknowledge these things one way or another and address them with your children, whether it's for the good or the bad. That's what Gotham Investigation is here to investigate.
Well, love is always good, not good or bad. Love and acceptance is always good.
I agree. Love and acceptance is always good, and we're lovers, guys.
And if anybody, I don't know about that. He's getting too comfortable being in the middle. Listen, if anybody has any questions,
And I want you to bring a
feel
girl.
free to write us.
I want you to bring a girl that's going to beat me in tennis or
I know lots of women that could tear you up on the tennis court.
All right. Well,
Doesn't matter how much testosterone you think you have.
we're going to save that for a future podcast, The Outcome of the Challenge. Gotham Investigations. If you need an investigation, contact us, gothaminvestigations.us. If you're looking for a life insurance policy, contact Jeremy at...
You can contact me at 786-775-8888 or jeremynicholson@gmail.com. I'm going to spell that because my uncle is not Jack Nicholson. So it's Nichelson. Again, jeremynicholson@gmail.com.
And if you want to donate money, you want to contribute your time in support of the LGBT community, Paul has many of organizations you can be involved in and get yourself into and donate money to, I believe, what is it, the Point Foundation, that you're a big part of as well. How could somebody get a hold of you, Paul, if they want to contact you?
Yeah, you can reach me at 305-902-7220. That's my cell. You can always email me at paulthomasinvestments@gmail.com or Facebook or Instagram. You know, the social media is a great way. It's an easy way to get in touch with people. So.
And that would be on Paul Thomas?
Yeah, Paul Thomas.
Gotham Investigations. Tune in and subscribe. Stay tuned for our next episode and look forward to our season of The Psychic Detective. Are you a fan of our show? Do you like our show? Then comment, hit the like button, and subscribe, or you might be the next one we investigate.